Your potential is limitless with the right mentor. Welcome to the Dhanraj Sir Method, Living the Subject.
Hello and welcome. Today, we're digging into a topic that's, well, literally the lungs of our planet, forest conservation. We're going to explore why every single tree really does count and what happens when they start to disappear. So, to really get our heads around this, let's start with this powerful analogy. It just perfectly sets the stage. This one sentence really captures the whole life-giving role that forests play for all of us. And here's how that whole lungs thing really works. It's like this giant, perfect swap. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide to live. And forests, they do the exact opposite. They take in all that CO2 and breathe out the oxygen that we need. It's this incredible, life-sustaining cycle on a global scale. All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll talk about why forests are our planet's lungs. Then we'll get into why they're vanishing and what a world without trees would even look like. And then we'll get to the good stuff, how we can turn things around and the path forward. Okay, first up, let's really dive into this foundational role that forests play. I mean, they're kind of the unsung heroes, right? Working 24/7 to keep our planet stable and healthy. And it's so much more than just the oxygen. Forests are these incredibly complex systems. They provide that rich humus that fertilizes soil. Their roots act like a giant net holding the soil in place to stop erosion and prevent floods. They help maintain the water table deep underground and even act as climate moderators. And yeah, of course, they absorb CO2, purifying the very air we breathe. They do it all. So if forests are so obviously critical for us, why on earth are they disappearing at such a scary rate? Let's get into the real causes of deforestation. So what's the deal? Well, the answer is complicated, but honestly, it all points overwhelmingly in one direction. The key drivers, they all stem from human activity and our ever-increasing demands on the planet. And the pressure we're putting on these ecosystems is just immense. It's really like a multi-front assault, We're clearing land for farming, chopping down trees for timber and industry, flooding huge areas for river projects, and turning forests into pasture land for animals. I mean, each one of these things just adds another layer of strain. Now, losing our forests isn't just a single event. It's not like, poof, the trees are gone. No, it triggers this dangerous chain reaction, a ripple effect that spreads across the entire ecosystem, affecting our land, our water, and our air. It all starts right under our feet, with the soil itself. Without that whole network of tree roots holding it all together, that rich topsoil becomes totally vulnerable, easily washed away by rain or blown away by the wind. And that eroded soil has to go somewhere, right? It ends up flowing straight into our streams and rivers. This makes the water cloudy, messes with the aquatic life, and just builds up as this thick layer of silt. And as those rivers get choked up with silt, they just can't hold as much water. So what happens? During heavy rains, they're way more likely to overflow, leading to these catastrophic floods. A problem that starts quietly on a hillside can turn into an absolute disaster in a populated valley. And beyond just the floods, there's this massive climate consequence. It's a pretty clear chain reaction. Fewer trees means more CO2 is left in the atmosphere. This just amps up the greenhouse effect, trapping more heat and directly causing global temperatures to rise. But listen, it's not all doom and gloom. Now we get to the hopeful part of this whole story, how we can actually fight back. There are clear, actionable strategies we can use to protect and even grow our precious forests. It really boils down to this powerful three-part strategy. First, you gotta have strict laws, and you actually have to enforce them. Second, you have to get people involved. The local communities are the true guardians here. And third, we've got to push for alternative energy sources like solar and hydropower to cut down our reliance on firewood. It really takes everyone working together. And this idea of getting people involved, it leads to these two really fascinating concepts that completely rethink the relationship between us and the forests we depend on: social forestry and agroforestry. So first up is social forestry. This is basically forestry for community development. It's all about managing and protecting forests and even planting new trees on barren lands with the specific goal of helping out rural communities. And then there's agroforestry. This is so smart. Instead of treating farms and forests like two separate things, this approach weaves them together. You plant trees on or near your farmland, and you can get crops, forest products, and even raise animals, all on the same piece of land. It's incredibly efficient.
And you can see how they're different, but also how they complement each other. Social forestry's main goal is to supply rural communities, which takes the pressure off our natural forests. Agroforestry is more about making existing farmland super efficient while also stopping soil erosion. Two different tools for the same big job. Okay, so with all these strategies and cool new ideas, where does this all lead? What's the big picture here? What's the ultimate goal for a country's green cover?
Well, this isn't just some vague hope. There's a real concrete policy target, and the number is 1/3. That's the goal. The National Forest Policy aims for a minimum of 1/3 of the country's total land be under forest and tree cover. That's what's needed for a healthy ecological balance. It's a big, bold, and totally necessary ambition. And that really brings us to our final thought. A policy on a piece of paper can set a target, but it's people who actually achieve the goal. Through things like social forestry and agroforestry, we can turn a plan into a real, thriving, living forest. So the question is, how do we do that? Thanks for joining this explainer.